Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Future Balls! I'm Nathan Waters.
I'm Tristan Gray.
We have a bingo ball machine. We spin it. 3 balls come out. 3 future ideas. We combine them together. We make them kiss.
And we have all 3. They've been pulled out.
3 balls.
3 balls. The first one is Piracy.
Piracy. Arr.
Okay. Piracy combined with leisure time.
That's kind of the life of a pirate.
That is, yeah. They were notoriously easy life as a pirate. And the last one is mega structures.
Whoa, mega
That's
structure
cool.
Pirate ships. Holy shit.
Hells yeah.
Giant
Space
pirates
piracy.
on space pirates.
We could talk about space pirates.
Dyson spheres
Oh.
pirate ships.
While enjoying leisure time.
leisurely stroll through the galaxy.
Oh, okay. This is kind of cool.
Well, so obviously we're not talking about pirates with patches.
No.
Or are we?
Oh, maybe.
We'll keep that. It's both. You'll have to decide whether we're talking about like pirating software or pirating as in like getting that booty.
Oh, man. Okay, so megastructures. What are we going to define as a megastructure? Is something big?
Anything bigger than a foot.
Yeah, there we go. Easy. No, so I think it has to be a giant project. I don't think it has to be necessarily like, like space-based, but it has to be something massive. I don't think it's like the Burj Khalifa is a megastructure. That's not what I think about. Yeah, like, so maybe if it's talking about an arcology, that's kind of like a megastructure, that type of level.
What about International Space Station?
Yeah, is that a megastructure?
It's the size of a football field.
Pretty big.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's it. Thanks, guys.
And we're done.
Facts. I mean, obviously, like megastructures, they talk about stuff like Dyson spheres, which is the idea of like wrapping a sun in a star in like solar panel-esque type things that get all this stuff. And then like Matryoshka brain, which is like Dyson spheres on Dyson spheres on Dyson spheres that are like a Matryoshka doll, but it's just full of compute power.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, that makes sense as the end game of consciousness.
So I like the idea along those lines that it's been brought up a couple of times in science fiction, but about actually stealing that computational power, but like having like little processes in there that you don't necessarily want running. So a thing that pops up in different sci-fi books is like the people who don't want to be a part of that collective. They're running their own little society, and so they're using up some of the CPU power from the Matryoshka brain, from the Dyson sphere, from the megastructure, the computational power of the universe. And inevitably, as it grows, the more powerful one goes to war because they want more CPU power, right?
Oh, so they try and snuff them out by
exactly, because they're using the resources and processing power that they want to be able to use.
Control-Alt-Delete and just like trying to end task.
Yeah.
Force delete.
Force delete them. It's pretty cool.
Imagine if every time you did that, you just like wiping out an entire civilization. Like, fuck.
So if I just have to plug a book here, that's one of my top 5 books of all time. It deals with this. It doesn't start off that way, but it ends up dealing with this type of thing. It's called Ra. R-A. It's a
god.
Yeah, so it's the sun god. The book starts with magic just suddenly appeared in the world in 1970. It's like, what?
Oh, yeah.
And then it just keeps on expanding. And it's an incredible book, so definitely
sounds similar to that other one you like, the Harry Potter one.
Yeah, the Methods of Rationality. Yeah. Yes, so it's often in the put alongside that, but it's less rational. It's just got similar ideas.
Random side tangent. I don't know why. Why didn't humanity just like coalesce on the idea of Ra as our god? Like the sun. That makes more sense than anything else. Like,
I guess the initial societies did, didn't they?
Yeah. And then we were just like, no, let's just like do crazy bearded old men.
Well, I guess they had like Ra as like a god, and then they had like the moon god. They had all the planet gods.
Yeah.
I guess it was the whole thing of combining it together, monotheism. Like, let's just say there's only one.
The sun's the best, because it's like, well,
the best, yeah.
All life like if the sun wasn't there would be nothing.
There's
here.
nothing here. No, the sun is
like,
the reason for us all. Now we're going to put a big old shell around it and just siphon it off. Is that how we should treat the sun that created us?
Closer to our God.
Ah, right. Yeah, we would have all of the God's light and energy on us.
Big hug. Hug the sun.
Oh man. So pirating computational.
Suns.
Yeah, well, pirating energy, pirating all of that. Because at the moment, sure, like, taking information, copying movies and stuff, but there'll always be a form of piracy. I wonder if it'll still be called that.
Yeah, I guess like piracy is basically.
Yeah.
You would really, really hope in the future that we're not still fucking doing intellectual property rights and patents and like all information should be completely 100% free. Like in the commons, all ideas should be free.
It shouldn't be known as piracy.
Patents and IP are just a relic of the industrial era and capitalism, where it's like, oh fuck, okay, yeah, I've made this now. The only way I can ever profit off it is by fucking locking it away.
It's by inefficiencies that are happening.
Yeah.
So if you come up with something, an amazing piece of art or an amazing idea, if it was the most efficient society, the most efficient way to get that out there, you'd be recognized. And sure, even if people copied your idea would have already been out there for long enough and helped enough people and got to where it needed to go, that you would have garnered all of the economic value from it. Yeah,
you'd get all the bitches, but not worry about the money.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Phrased it far more eloquently than I could have.
That's our post-capitalist society. All the bitches, don't worry about the money.
Jesus Christ. Oh, man. Exactly. Well, if it's the most efficient, then that's how it works. Well, so yeah, I think I went down a wrong tangent there because would you call, say, a crypto miner put on someone's computer? That's not piracy. That's sure you're stealing someone else's CPU time, but that's not really piracy. I'd say that's a very different type of thing. That's like malware.
Maybe we'll just put it under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
Because I like what you're talking. Like, now I understand what you're talking about with the Matryoshka brain. Like, they're stealing our compute power.
Yeah, they're using it in a way that we don't want it to be. They're claiming it as their own.
Yeah.
Because it's not the same as like just taking ideas. But see, I guess that's what it comes down to is like you're taking our ideas that we've already worked all of this time for and like, put all this processing power into, and now you're using it in your processing cluster, your brain. And no, you're not allowed to do that unless you pay us. Because it could actually then be like in a Matryoshka brain. Would there be factions? Would there be different people wanting to do different things? Or is it going to be like a very autocratic type society? Just one person decides what everything processes. One person.
Ra decides.
Yeah.
The AI calls itself Ra.
That'd be pretty cool. Well, that's a paperclip maximizer, an autocratic computer, an autocratic Dyson sphere. Is a paperclip maximizer, and that's like the death of intelligence in the universe. If you wanted to actually have proper intelligence spreading throughout the universe, you're going to, by definition, right, going to have different competing factions, different competing thoughts saying what should happen so the best can actually percolate up to the top. Because if you just have one thing deciding one thing, it's paperclip maximizer. Unless it's saying we just want to get more computational power to increase our thoughts. Maybe that by being more adaptive, it can do that. But it still feels like very paperclippy.
I guess it decides what it comes down to. Like if it's trying to maximize one number, like if it's a well, I guess that's still a paperclip maximizer. Like if you say like, oh, it's a vanity metric, like we just want to compute more. But then it could be broader. It could be like, oh, we want to create more knowledge. But then maybe it just like knowledge is such an abstract, complex concept.
Yeah, you can't define it.
If you then go, oh, okay, knowledge means X amount of thing, and then they try to maximize X amount of thing, and it's like, well, now it is a paperclip max.
Well, yeah, as soon as you define what something is, as soon as you define a metric, it ceases to become a good measure.
Like trees, it's wood.
Yeah.
It's like, well, now you're just going to cut down all the fucking forest and destroy all these natural ecosystems to get wood. Like,
well, I guess it comes down to like, is the human species a paperclip maximizer at that point? So yeah, sure, we're maximizing for knowledge and scientific truth, but all evolution has been, it tends towards more complexity, using more resources, more energy. See, and so this actually really ties together well with the third ball here, leisure time.
Leisure.
So leisure, when you're getting at the level of a superstructure, that is wasted time because that's just, dicking around and relaxing. Like, why wouldn't, say, all those CPU cycles be put towards the goal, the whatever it wants it to be?
Oh, so you're saying there's no leisure in a superstructure?
It's a possibility of there not being.
Maybe leisure
there.
is just like you just turn off. You just
you get to die for a bit before you're summoned back to your painful existence.
Yeah, leisure is like returning to the void.
Oh, dark.
Because, yeah, it's not going to be like, I'll just go and hang out on my simulated beach in this megastructure. It's like, well, what are you doing wasting cycles on this fucking, like, beach experience when we could be computing to, like, reverse entropy?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Why are you taking...
Why are we wasting cycles on Todd's fucking beach experience?
Bloody Todd. Again, you've just added all this entropy to the universe, you bad monkey.
God damn it.
Damn you, Todd. Sorry to any Todds out there listening, but you know what you did. You know what you did.
Back to the void, Todd.
So would that happen as it's still an interesting concept that we've got leisure time now. Like if you just look at a lot of productivity, that it's always trying to be, you know, etched away, and leisure time's always under attack. And you can kind of get into that mindset. Actually, I've been interested to know your thoughts on this. So saying that when people are contracting, they think like, you know, they might have more leisure time, but then they start realizing, they start thinking about it in terms of numbers, saying, oh, for a week that I take off work to contracting, oh, that might be a few grand. So they're actually seeing it as, oh, I'm losing this amount of money. When you're a salaried employee, you're not thinking that too much. You're like, well, I get this time off.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot lately about the hedonic treadmill. Is a big thing. Like humans, for some reason, which is probably a great driver for like on a special level, but humans always want more. We're never satisfied, and that's probably tied into leisure time. Like yes, we live in a society where like cost of living are always going up, partly because of the inflation, and like just partly because like everything's monopolizing, and everyone wants to try and get their little edge, so living costs go up and up and up. But then, like, you know, there's no reason why now people in the Western society couldn't work probably 2 days a week. I think you could get to a point where you could work 2 days a week and then live quite comfortably the rest of the time doing whatever you want.
That was what the old futurists used to say was, you know, you'd always go down in the amount of hours worked. That's just not the way that society is
Keynes
gone.
said 15 hours a week or something we'd be at. Yeah, it's not there, but like, I wonder whether that's a hard reality or whether that's a lifestyle choice. Like whether we just, you know, obviously if you want to go buy a fucking $1 million house, then yeah, you're going to have to work full time for the next 20 years to pay that off, mate. So
and people decide on that.
I don't know.
See, an interesting thing that could end up happening is leisure time actually start being derided, like, you know, as you're stealing from the commons. So you're actually, you're not helping anyway. You're taking from all of society. That how dare you not work for this bit at the moment right now. Especially as you get further and further on. Like say, imagine all of society looking at your leisure time as an economic waste. So we're a step back from the matryoshka brains of stealing cycles, but it's like, look at all this productive work that you could have been doing, putting towards curing cancer. That's already happening a little bit at the moment with like the amount that doctors and stuff are working. It's kind of obscene how much they're forced to, but they actually have a very real thing. It's kind of like, hey, if I don't work, these people don't get treated. And that could actually start happening more and more. And so you're treated like a pirate by... It all came back together.
The word. He said the word.
I said the word. I don't know. I could see that happening. And I don't think as we get bigger that that's going to go away. Like even in a proper megastructure level society, when we're talking giant capital ships and Dyson spheres and terraforming.
I was just trying to link that back to the current debate between like UBI versus job guarantee. Because UBI, you've got people love that because it's like the idea of like, okay, you're free to choose what you want to do. If you want to sit on the beach all day, cool, go do that. With the idea being that, okay, maybe there'll be enough percentage of people who will want to be doing something that society will continue to function. But then there's the other people who are like, no, like work provides purpose and something for people to do. And, you know, so we should just give everyone jobs. Everyone should be working. And it's like, you can understand, like, both sides have, like, there's something to both of them.
You can understand both sides.
Like, I definitely agree that humans struggle when they don't have a purpose and jobs don't have a mutual, jobs don't have an exclusive, like, control over the idea of purpose, like, at all, but people think they do. But definitely people need a purpose and jobs provide that.
Can provide that, yeah.
So it'd be interesting, like, when we get to... an idea of abundance. See, this is the other thing as well. I also wonder, bringing that back to the idea that like why aren't people living leisurely lives now? you look at people like Peter Diamandis, who's always pushing the abundance. And it's like, well, are we ever going to get to that point, or have we already surpassed that point? And even though we now live in abundance for like most people in say the West, or like most people in the developed world, like even though we live in a world of abundance, we just like step on the hedonic treadmill and we don't get off. We just like got all this abundance. We could have tons of leisure time, but we just choose to like chase more and more and more, work harder, work more hours because we want to buy the fancier car, buy the fancier house, like, and prices just keep going up and up. So we're going to keep chasing like fucking little rats on a wheel.
I guess we wouldn't have the mega structures getting built in the future if we don't have a lot of people actually, that drive to actually keep going. I mean, we don't really need all of that energy from the sun, like to give Ra a nice big hug. But you can see it ending up going that way because at least if there's a few people doing it, a few people gaining their sense of purpose by actually creating or looking towards these giant megastructures, you're going to get this type of stuff happening.
Can we have drive for big, like humanity progressing forward at a rapid pace? Can we have that drive without it also being some like slave-based, like, okay, everyone has to work to make it happen? Like, see, this is the weird thing. I want people to be like work. I want people to be doing stuff every single day of their life, like something good, productive, but like
something meaningful, not filling in a hole.
Yeah, like I think the word productive has definitely been like captured by capitalism. Productive means to make money, and like I want people to be productive, but like just to fucking do something useful or interesting, novel, whatever it is that is to them.
Yeah, because they know best at like. You want that craziness out there. You want like people creating weird things of
emergence.
art. Emergent. You don't know what they know, and like they may have an interesting perspective doing something. You want that output, something there.
Yeah. And like some dickheads will use that time to create NFTs and think they're doing something useful for the world.
Yeah. But see, then there might be 10,000 people create shitty NFTs, and then there might be an NFT that comes along that's actually reimagines what could be done with it. Hey, that's kind of cool.
Yep. And then other people will do art, and then others will do like hardcore. Like I think science is the ultimate. Like, imagine if just like the majority of humans on the planet were just doing science, because science is such a broad. It's basically just like discovery. Like
measuring.
It's like have a calculated hypothesis, have a calculated like vision of what could be, and then just like go and discover it and find it out. And then if you merge the two with engineering, it's like made a discovery, and then very quickly it's like now it's implemented and it's something useful and tangible. Yeah.
I like that. I just had a big realization about myself that I think I've moved towards the art side of art versus science. Just to be like, full on science. So I'm like, no, what would be really good is all the art coming out and like creating interesting new ways and new things of happening. So
now you have to wear a beret.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I already own like 20 of them. So. I don't. But it's terrible that I actually thought for a sec then.
Lattes.
Beret could be good.
Yeah, well, I always love Jason Silver talking about like art and science merging.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. And well, that's the best type of thing, right? You have that. So much of science, like you get that idea that it's a very strict process, and like you have to do this followed by this, and right, and all of that. But you look at some of the best scientists; they're all artists. They're all like thinking of something weird, and then they're like, "Hey, let's just see if we can make that happen, or if that's true."
And it's awesome. Discovery without expectation, like it's it's you're not expecting an outcome. You're just trying to like.
Following it,
find something.
Yeah. I hope that ends up happening when we get to a mega structure level, when that can start occurring.
See, maybe the way it will happen is I love that we're talking about like mega structure, like scarcity inside a computational mega structure. Which is kind of like for those of you listening, like in a mega structure, your computational capacity is going to be fucking off the charts. And yet we're talking about like, what if one of them takes like a couple of like, tera fucking hashes of compute and uses it for something. But what I was thinking is maybe if there's like independent entities operating inside this megastructure and not just some amorphous blob, maybe what it would do is like it would allocate like computational slots to each of those things. So then you're free to use it however you wish. And then it's like a boundary where it says, okay, the megastructure might be like, okay, you might be wasting your slot on stuff that we don't care about, but if you care about it, then you can use the full space of that computational allocation.
It's like a bet, essentially. It promotes the healthy diversity of thoughts and all of that allows different things to actually emerge, which is kind of cool.
I like that. But then what if someone wants more than the allocation?
Well, yeah, then they'd say, look, I've proved this idea, and I'd love to know what the structure would be, like what the deciding mechanism, what the governance mechanism would be for that, because it would really determine the whole, how it would look, like how a thought, how a new idea could percolate up through trillions upon trillions and trillions and trillions of petaflops. Like, incredible.
Yeah, and you'd wonder too whether it would naturally kind of coalesce into like a brain-like structure where, so you know how like in our brains we have certain regions where it's like certain regions do different things, and there's certain like pathways, which kind of like, I don't know, like if you think about like if you just had a blob, like wouldn't it be best if like let's say you had like a million neurons, just tiny brain, a million neurons in a blob, wouldn't it be best if like every neuron was like independent? And so like if one neuron had a little idea, a little spark, it could just suddenly like just trickle out through all of them and then interact with all of them. But then maybe it's better to have a brain where it's like there's some structure where it's like, okay, if like you think of our brains, like if a neuron fires in a certain part of the brain, that part of the brain might just be for like motor control or something. It might not actually like trigger a thought. Like when you move your arm, it's not like that.
You want it to be like at the prefrontal cortex where the higher thoughts and all the higher learning happens. Just focusing on that rather than the mobility, maybe, or
well, I'm just wondering like whether a giant brain structure would form into like natural regions like that, where it's like it's compartmentalized. So it's like, okay, this part of the brain only does these sort of things, and so like there's a bit of a barrier, so that like the interactions and the activities and the knowledge and stuff that's coming out of that is kind of like it has to go through like a small pipeline, I guess, a pathway to get into the rest of the brain. Yeah, it's not just immediately like infecting the rest of the brain with its mimetic spread.
It's mimetic payload.
But is that good or is that bad? Should every idea
should be totally open,
interact with all others? I don't know.
It's tricky. I like it. It'll be just determined as piracy. Bad thoughts are piracy. It's a meme crime.
Well, I don't know. Still stuck on this. So imagine, say if every human on the planet was Neuralinked, and imagine we had a system where like anytime anyone had a thought, everyone else got that same thought.
Yeah.
See, that would be bad because then
you'd be terrible.
You'd end up with an amorphous mechanism. Yeah, so everyone would end up thinking the same way. You'd have a Borg.
Yeah.
So then the only way to prevent that is to like almost like dumb down the spread of the brain. You'd have to have membranes where it's like my thoughts only somehow get to other people through certain...
You need selection criteria.
Pathways. Yeah.
So it's the same way that, like, I guess evolution works at the moment. Like, you've got a whole diversity of thoughts, you've got a way of selecting, and then you let that get to the next part to let it spread, or what's that? Hereditariness is the next one, right? If you could... Yeah.
So, well, then the question is, like, what would the selection criteria and, and the membrane criteria be in a system where you get to decide that in a Matryoshka brain?
I would love to know that. That would be awesome. It's a social evolution, I feel.
Like good thoughts only.
Yeah.
It becomes very religious, like religious dogma inside a Matryoshka brain.
That's cool. Awesome. Well, let's leave it there.
Cool. I've been Nathan Waters.
I'm Tristan Grace. See you later for more future balls.
Woo.